And to get to our Olis Connect, all we need to do is to paste the IP address of the device. So I have that in my clipboard already, and I hit enter. And that loads this web application. And it looks something like Zoom on steroid, but it has some familiar points like the 3D render panel with the robot and a set of video views. And like I said, this is just a website, and that's important because if you're a small company, you don't need a custom device to access your robot from. You can just pull up your tablet at home and log into the VPN and access it through there. Or if you're a big company and you already have some sort of fleet management system, you can actually use that system to access Olis Connect, because all you need to open up this view is just an IP address and a URL. So we have a set of video cameras here, and what we can do is we can actually click on one of them to maximize it. And in this view, we put one of the cameras next to the robot, so we can actually see where we put the two others. So we have one camera at the end of the robot there, where you see the Olis logo. And our kit actually comes with a wrist mount to help you mount this. And we also send the kit with a third camera that's up top here, that is looking down on this blue device here. So this is our mock CNC machine, because what I'm going to demonstrate later is how we can use Olis Connect in machine tending. So with that, I'm going to X out of this to get back to this conference view that we call it. So to now, with this view, we can see what's going on with the robot. We can check in, make sure it has material, make sure everything is running, nothing has crashed, no other issues. But really, it gets interesting once we start taking control. So to do that, we push operate on the lower left-hand side. And you see how this left-hand panel suddenly appears. So this is the operator panel. So this software is not meant to be a programming tool for your robot, but rather we have chosen to give the operator the tools they need to start and stop programs, take over teleoperate, and get the robot back online if there is a problem. So that's what you have right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by actually stopping the program that we're currently running. I stop it there with the block at the start position. And then we're actually going to go straight into teleoperation. So I do that by going down and pushing the manual button at the bottom. And you can see how a couple of the buttons just lit up. Those are the buttons we're going to use to teleoperate the robot. I'm going to zoom in here. I'm using my mouse to zoom in with the scroll wheel. You can see a little bit better. When I push one of these buttons here on the left, the robot will move accordingly. So if I push back on the red button, it will move along the red axis there. And say likewise with the green, it'll move side to side along the green axis. And if you're familiar with Universal Robot and Polyscope programming in their environment, you might recognize this as the default tool center point, or the default TCP frame. So in Olis Connect, you can actually pick any one of your TCP frames as your coordinate frame for teleoperation. In this case, we're just gonna use the default, and mainly because it's aligned with the wrist camera that we have. So when we push, left and right, it's all according to this video camera, and that makes it very easy to teleoperate and drive. We can also rotate the end effector. So if I start pushing the green button, you can see how the arm rotates, or the end effector rotates about the green axis. And I can go left, rotate about the blue one. And really, at some point, I kind of stopped looking at these axes and I started looking at this view instead. Because what we have now is the ability to drive this robot first-person view. So I'm going to drive up to our little mock CNC machine where we have a vise here on the left. And this is where we'll be putting our workpiece. And we have a little sort of light indicator here on the right. So when that one goes red, it means that we're pretending that there's some work being done with this workpiece. We can also rotate down to look and make sure that our start piece is in the right location. And that looks fine. It's at the, it is located at the starting position. So before we hit play on our CNC demo program, we're gonna also look at this bottom here, where we have our digital IOs. Because not only are you able to drive the robot in Olis Connect, but you can also change the outputs of the digital IOs. So when I push it red, red turns on, and I can turn off the green one. And in this case, it's just a light indicator, but you can have all sorts of equipment hooked up to your robot. It could be a vacuum, it could be some fluid, whatever it might be. If you have it wired up to your digital IOs, it means that you can control that again from wherever you are from a browser window. So with that, we're gonna go to the top and load a different program. And I can either just start typing the name of the program here. That can be very useful if I have a lot of them, or I can just use the folder structure to get to my program. So in this case, we're going to start the webinar CNC demo. And once that is loaded, we look at the cameras, everything looks fine, it is clear, we'll go ahead and press play. And it's first centering the block before picking it up. It goes up to the mock CNC machine and puts it down into the device. And then it lets go, backs off slowly, and the work is proceeding. And that takes a couple of seconds. We sped it up, obviously, to make it a little bit more exciting. And then we go back and we pick the block back up. It moves in, and it's going to move the block back to the home position where we initially picked it up. So this is very representative of a machine tending application and the type of work that the robot would be doing all night long in that case. So now I want to show you something here. The robot goes in again. It puts the block down. I'm actually going to stop it right there, because you might actually notice here that the robot actually hasn't perfectly centered the block inside of the device. And right now, it seems like it's still working, but we might want to address this even before a problem happens. So we're going to do what we call as polishing of the feature points. So what that means is that I'm going to go into manual control, and I'm actually going to drive this robot to center it in device. So I'll push right. Go down a little bit. I overshot there. I'm going to go down even lower in speed to make sure I really get it nice and well aligned there. Perfect. Okay. So now that we've put this, we've sort of updated the position of where we want this robot to be, we actually need to go into the robot computer itself and save it. And this is where it gets a little bit advanced, but you push the three lines here, get into the menu, and you hit VNC. And this is still all inside of your browser, but we actually have access to the full Polyscope environment here as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the Installation tab, and we're going to go down to our features here, and pick Device feature, and we're going to teach this point, because this is the point that was currently a little bit offset to the left. So we want to update it to reflect the current position. And we don't actually need to push any of these buttons here right now, because we just already teleoperated the point we wanted. So at this point, we just press OK, and that will be saved. And now we can X out of the VNC view. So now to restart this program, I have two options. I can either teleoperate the robot to bring the block back down to the starting position, but in the interest of time here, I'm just going to go and use my reset block program for that. So I hit play, and it's doing a little realignment procedure. Picks up the block and puts it down. And now we can go back and start our webinar CNC demo again. Hit play, and hopefully this time the block will be more centered into the device. That looks pretty good to me. Guess it's still a little bit to the left, but it's better at least. So what we have done here is that we've taken a program that was running but wasn't perfect, and we have polished it up such that hopefully it can run for a long time uninterrupted. And now what we're going to do is we're going to look at what happens when a program actually does fail. So since we just fixed this program and it could probably run for a very, very long time without a failure, I therefore asked our engineer Ryan to go and make sure that we get one. And I've just received a notification here on my computer. So let's switch over to screen share. So here's what my email currently looks like. I got this Olis Connect 002 report where I'm at the top, I'm getting some basic status information. The main thing you should focus on is the fact that it says grasp failed. That was the issue. Under that, we have a set of animated GIFs that gives you, I can see it's giving you a clue right now as to what actually happened, but the high quality version of that is actually going to be in your email attachments. So you don't have to worry, the videos are not going to be at this quality. And beneath that, we have the UR control logs. We can see if something more serious happened with the robot. What we're going to do is we're going to click on the third attachment because I think that is the sort of overview camera. So here we can get a view now of what happened. So it went up, picked the block, put it back into device, and now, because I didn't want you guys to have to wait for a long time, I had our engineer Ryan come and sabotage this program a little bit because I think it was very well programmed, probably could have run for hours. But now we have a very good idea of what went wrong. So we're going to open up the other perspective as well. The wrist camera now. We can see we put it in device, backed off. A lot of times, let's see, there we're backing off. A lot of times, when you come back to a robot cell and if it stopped, you might not have any idea of what went wrong. And this can be a big issue if you have problems that occur very rarely. Let's say you have an issue with the robot every 4 months and no one was there to see it when it happened. In that case, Olis Connect would have caught it and we would have been able to be a lot more surgical in our remediation of the problem. So now we know what went wrong. We know that it was Ryan who took the block. We go back to here in Olis Connect. I'm going to maximize this window with full screen, and we're going to get the program back to work. So in this case, I'm going to say that, hey, this piece down here is lost, and we're just going to go and pick a new one. So what I'll do is I'll actually stop it and go back to manual teleoperation. And I'm going to drive over and pick up that block over there. So I'm going to move back, turn up the speed quite a bit, make it a little faster. Rotate down. Down the speed a little bit. There. I'm going to open our gripper. And start driving towards the block. See if I'm not sure exactly how lined up I am. We'll see. If you don't want to be clicking on these on-screen jog buttons, or if you don't want to be using your touchscreen, you can actually plug in a gamepad to your device, and this website is advanced enough that it will detect that and let you use your keyboard instead, or sorry, gamepad instead. Looks pretty well aligned. It looks like that block is sat down a little uneven, so I'll pick it up there, a little higher. It's pretty good. We're gonna move it over to the start position. For this demo, I cheated a little bit. I made a little bit of a dot there in the grading, so I can see where it is. That looks pretty good. I'm releasing my jaw. Back off. So now we can just get this program back to work. So let's see there. Play. And we are back to running our CNC demo. So now, you might say, well, my programs don't have this capability right now. This is not how my programs behave. When they stop, I just get a pop-up on my robot computer, and that's it. So what I'm going to show you now is how we can modify your robot program, and this takes just a couple of minutes to make it have this behavior instead, where it sends you email and where it lets you take over and fix problems. So I'm actually going to stop this program, get over back to screen share, stop this program. We're going to go back to our original simple block moving program that we had running. And I'll start that. And just to demonstrate what it normally looks when a UR program fails, I'm going to have Ryan come and take the block again. So now he takes the block, it goes in and stops. And this time, we didn't have an alert here at the bottom. There's no email being sent. And I'll show you why. Go into the robot computer, and we can see here that we had an error pop-up on the teach pendant. And the issue now is that you need to have access to this teach pendant to clear this error, or unless you have Olis Connect, you can do it remotely like I'm doing now. But no email was sent out. The program is stopped. And most of the time, you wouldn't notice this until you get into your facility the next day. So what we're going to do now is we're going to upgrade this program or modify this program to use Olis Teleop instead. So all I have to do to swap out this pop-up is go in and delete it. And if this user interface here on your screen looks a little bit dated, it's because it's on the CB series robot, and obviously everything looks a little bit more new and modern on the E series, but all the concepts are exactly the same, and so you will see the exact same behavior on the E series. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on that empty spot and add our Olis Teleop node instead. And that's really all you have to do. We can get a little bit fancy and modify the message. Could not grab block, please help. I can copy that and save that. So now when it goes into Teleoperation, this is the message that will be sent in that email. And we also need to update or modify the second pop-up that we had here. Same thing, just delete it. Put an Olis Teleop node in and update that message. You could have also just copied this node. And that's actually all we had to do to make sure that our program has this desired behavior. So now we save this program, and we're pretty much good to go. And us being a UR Plus partner is one of the reasons why it's so easy to do this. Olis Connect is, not just an accessory that gives you access to these functionalities, but it's also a part of your robot program. So you can actually do things. In this case, we're using it for exception handling, where if something failed, we're going to Teleoperation. But you can also use it if you have a critical step of your program that happens very rarely. You can say, I always want to do this step manually using Teleoperation. And it's kind of up to you how you set those programs up. So now we're going to go back and we're going to hit play on this program. Actually, I need to reset. I need to go pick up that block. So I'm going to go pick up that block. Actually, Ryan, could you reset the block into the starting position if I move off a little bit? Okay, so I'm just going to press play, and Ryan's going to show what it looks like this time when he puts the block out of the way. So we'll wait one cycle, and then his hands will come back in again. So this time, the program had the desired behavior. We got a message at the bottom, could not grab block, please help, and that an email was sent to frederick@olisrobotics.com, which is also the email you should use if you want to get in touch with me and discuss some of your robot applications and how Olis Connect can help you.